Good evening. Welcome to the September 23rd City Council meeting. Please rise to salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call of the members. Councilor Agenzio.
Here.
Here, Councilor Janino.
Here.
Here, Councilor Guarino-Sawaya.
Here.
Here, Councilor Hass.
Here.
Here, Councilor Jaramillo.
Here.
Here, Councilor Kelly.
Here.
Here, Councilor McKenna.
Here.
Here, Councilor Novoselsky. Here, Councilor Silvestri. Here, Councilor Zambudo.
Here.
Here, and Council President Cogliandro.
Here.
Here, quorum is present. Approval of the journal of the regular meeting of September 9th.
So moved.
So ordered. Madam Clerk, before we begin, I'd like to take a moment of silence. Danny Maniff, retired Chief Fire Inspector, also Mary Oliveri, former city employee of the Election Department, and Toby Cassidy, former longtime member of the Conservation Commission. If you would all join me in a brief moment of silence. Thank you.
Public hearings, calendar item number 3, hearing called as ordered on an ordinance establishing rules and regulations for the display of flags and the use of City Hall.
This is a public hearing. We will start with proponents. Anyone in favor? Name and address, please.
Clarence Rillo, 281 Broadway, City Solicitor's Office. I'm here to be brief because we've got a lot of folks here tonight, but I want to thank this body for their consideration and the due diligence that was put into the consideration of the ordinance before you tonight. My office hopefully provided some clarity with the requested facts and legal findings that we discussed at the last meeting. It was the intent of the DEI office and this city to celebrate the rich cultural heritages that we have in Revere, and the Supreme Court upholds such a notion. However, moving forward with Councilor Zambudo's thoughtfully crafted amendment before you tonight means our departments can work fruitfully in new and creative ways to continue highlighting the diverse history of our city. And for the Solicitor's Office, I can say we rest easy knowing that after tonight, we will hopefully and finally have a policy on the books.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents, people in favor? Name and address for the record, please.
Wayne Rose, Revere Street. If we can't hang all the flags besides the military and the American flag, we shouldn't hang any flags. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other proponents, people in favor? Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Stephanie DeSisto, 7 Reservoir Avenue. Institutional neutrality, the operative word being neutrality. It's now the watchword for cities and towns relative to their community flagpoles. Never should it be within the purview of any city administration or department or council to be the self-appointed determiners / arbiters of which flags are acceptable and which flags are not. Because one group might find a flag offensive or hostile or marginalizing, while another group may not. And the city cannot engage in viewpoint discrimination or preferential treatment of one flag versus another without opening themselves up to a lawsuit. So it's either all or none. This amendment to the ordinance establishes the flagpole as neutral ground, and that's what it should be. It is a make-sense risk management policy which protects against controversy and potential litigation that the city will find itself subject to without it. And I, as a taxpayer, do not want to have to foot a bill for yet another litigation against the city. And whatever comes down the road in the future about changes to this amendment, well, I guess we'll cross that bridge together when we get there.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any other proponents? Seeing and hearing none, I will close that side of the hearing. Any opponents? Anyone not in favor?
So I just want to state my point. So I'm here
Sir,
tonight.
name and address, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Steve Morabito, Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the City of Revere, 281 Broadway, Revere, Massachusetts, 02151. I'm here tonight because I believe the proposed amended ordinance before you is missing what makes our city so special, and that's our diversity. Each and every one of us in this room have diverse backgrounds. The original ordinance that I proposed before you with the solicitor's help protected our city while at the same time gave us the chance to show that Revere is a place where everyone belongs, everyone. By flying flags like the LGBTQ plus flag, the Juneteenth flag, flying flags of Colombia for their Independence Day, or Central America for their Independence Day, or flying flags of Italy to celebrate Italian American Heritage Month. Okay, we're not just flying fabric, we're flying pride, recognition, and respect for all of our residents. Let me repeat that. When we are flying flags, we're flying for the respect of everyone in our community. But this amendment takes that away. It narrows who gets to be seen, who gets to feel included, and I don't believe that's who we are as a city. Yes, we honor our military men, women, and our veterans yesterday, today, tomorrow, and forever, and that will never change. They will always have a flag and their own flag in front of City Hall. There's no dispute about that whatsoever. One thing you have to understand, and I think we all can agree, Revere appreciates, loves, and respects our military men and veterans, okay? Now, with that set aside, I just had to make that clear, because no one doubts that whatsoever. My honorable council members, we are a city made up of many stories, many faces, and many flags. And when we choose to celebrate that, we are stronger for it. So I kindly say, let's reject this amendment and reintroduce the original ordinance, or let's work on something that truly represents everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Any other opponents? Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Brian Gisau, 910 Place in Revere, Massachusetts. Thank you for the opportunity to talk on this proposal. Obviously, for the record, I am opposed to what the bill or amendment would encompass. The flags of any country and the flag even of America is not just a piece of fabric. All flags are important to be flown, regardless of who it is being flown for. Whether it's flown for the Italians, flown for any Eastern European country. This city is built on diversity. Regardless of how someone sees it, personally, me being from close to Shirley Ave, I see people of all backgrounds. I believe that we should allow all flags to be flown, regardless of it being American, Moroccan, Colombian, all flags. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any other opponents? Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Erin Henninger, 293 Mountain Avenue, Revere. Oh, sorry, I'm a little new to this. When my grandmother immigrated here to the US, she knew 2 words in English, cheeseburger and root beer. Weren't 2 awful words to know. And as she built her life here, she learned English, and she celebrated both where she was from and taught my mother and me and all of my siblings and cousins where she was from so that we could know where we were going. My family moved here last summer. My husband is U.S. Coast Guard, and we were thrilled when we found out his orders were for the Boston area, because I wanted an experience for my kids where they could learn to appreciate the rich diversity of our nation, that the communities that my husband rescues, the people that his older brother, who's U.S. Army, fought for, are not just people who look like me, who have grandparents with a Swedish flag or grandparents with a Northern Ireland flag, but everyone. All the flags deserve to be put on display in their own time and to be shown and celebrated. I'm so grateful that I could take my kids to the celebration held here out in front of the building for the El Salvador Independence Day, because it was an opportunity for them to see another culture, to see another flag, to learn. And every time we drive by, if they see something different, they ask questions. And they're curious, and I love that. I love the opportunity that provides my family, and I would ask that you guys do not change that, because it would limit the experience that they have. It would limit the experience that everyone else here gets to have. There's plenty of, I don't know, I feel like there's plenty of flagpole to share. And so I just would encourage you guys to reject this proposal, to reject this new proposal, and to either go back to the old one or to work on something that allows for everyone who is fighting for their flag to be celebrated. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other opponents? Anyone not in favor? Seeing and hearing none, close that side of the hearing. Before the counselor starts speaking, just a reminder, this is going to Legislative Affairs. First up is Councilor Silvestri.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I just want to make everyone clear, okay? This was not a city council motion. I feel like this has been portrayed like we brought this up and we made a change. This was not our motion. The city in the DEI office presented a motion that had carve-outs to certain flags, which this body was not in favor of. So we told them there was either no flags or it was all the flags. So we agree with you all, just so you know. This whole entire body agrees with everyone that has come up here and spoken tonight. None of us have ever said a thing against any pride engagements, against any country, against any religious group. Although the city came out with carve-outs, specifically named which flags could be raised, in this body said, no, we are not in favor of that. So just so everyone understands that that is the fact of this matter, none of us wanted to block any celebrations because we love them as much as you do. And the city was the ones that carved out a creation for certain flags, not this body, just so we understood. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Yaramio.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am not going to be brief, unfortunately, for all of you. So I gotta say, when the mayor's office, through the DEI office, filed this motion, it was a little bit disheartening. I've been working in this community for some 15 years, particularly with folks who are non-first language English speakers. And I know how important it is for different flags to go up in our public space. I've been doing this work not in a performative nature, not because I think this is the right thing to do because it appeals to my own self-interest, but rather because we should have open public space accessible to the public, regardless of who that group is. I stand against the original ordinance because it does restrict certain groups, and I don't find that to be okay. And while I was okay with the amendment in committee for the current language, I still think it's restrictive to public access to free speech, and therefore I will be also voting against that, just because I don't believe we need to change the way we are operating. It's unclear, and it has been unclear to me throughout the entire committee process on this piece of ordinance, why this was filed, other than to prevent some folks from having access to the public space in the city of Revere. And I want to reiterate what Councilor Silvestri just said. The city council of the city of Revere and none of its councilors proposed this ordinance. The original ordinance is performative in nature at best, if not racist at worst. So I just cannot fathom why it was proposed to begin with. I'm going to take a deep breath and I'm going to translate this. So, me parece un poquito decepcionante de que este cambio a cómo se ha estado manejando la póliza sobre los espacios públicos de la ciudad se haya propuesto por la administración y por la Oficina de Diversidad y Equidad. Yo he trabajado en esta comunidad con muchos de ustedes por casi 15 años. Hemos estado en las calles tocando puertas, haciendo eventos comunitarios, etcétera, etcétera. Y la verdad, la manera en que se ha estado manejando la situación hasta el momento ha estado funcionando. Y para mi gusto, lo que he visto yo es que la propuesta del alcalde, por medio de la Oficina de Diversidad y Equidad, no es más sino para restringir acceso a la expresión pública de nuestra comunidad. Yo entiendo que ellos se cubren diciendo que es para que no tengamos problemas legales, pero la verdad, si no le estamos negando el acceso público a nadie, no vamos a tener problemas legales. Me parece un poquito performativo para aquellas personas que de pronto no conozcan bien la palabra. Nuestra comunidad no necesita que nos digan cuándo y dónde podemos poner las banderas. Nuestra comunidad en verdad lo que necesita es acceso libre al espacio público y a las instituciones públicas. ¿Y sabe cómo se hace eso? Por ejemplo, al principio del año, esta persona intentó trabajar con el alcalde para una ordenanza de traducción. Trabajamos varios meses en eso. Y el mismo señor que está proponiendo ahora esta propuesta de restricción, después dijo que no, que era demasiado costoso para que ustedes, los que no hablan español, tengan acceso, por ejemplo, a las audiencias públicas de la comunidad. Me parece muy interesante. Entonces, cuando hablamos de performativo, es muy bacano ir a tomarse una foto allí, pero en verdad lo que necesitamos es, por ejemplo, servicios de traducción en los espacios públicos, para que el único concejal que está aquí no tenga que traducir simultáneamente. ¿Me parece? ¿Qué más necesitamos? Acceso a las canchas públicas, También con el concejal Argencio, por ejemplo, propusimos un horario y un sistema de cómo tener acceso a las canchas públicas de nuestra ciudad. Y sin embargo, el jefe del Departamento de Parques estuvo aquí y se opuso a esta propuesta. Entonces, la verdad, amigos, ¿esto es algo que en verdad ayuda a la diversidad de nuestra comunidad o es algo performativo? Esa es la pregunta que les hago a ustedes. Que tengan una feliz tarde.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Hess? Councilor Zambudo?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think all my colleagues were specific on what happened here. And I don't have a racist bone in my body. Those who know me and know me well know that. My amendment is to eliminate everything. The only thing it does is allow the American flag, the city flag, the state flag, and any military flag. That was the fairest way I could make this work. It doesn't discriminate against anybody. We can still have all the celebrations for every single country that we want here. We just can't put other flags other than those specific flags on our flagpole. That doesn't change anything. We're still the same city. We still respect and honor every country, everybody that comes from any country here. We're as diverse a community as anywhere. But this is a common sense, legal way of having a flagpole that does not discriminate. And that's what this does. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Kelly?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to point out, I think this is an issue that is much more complicated than it seems on its face. Although I did not agree with the ordinance that was proposed by the mayor's office, by the city, I know why they did it. They did it in response to a lawsuit involving the city of Boston, wherein the Supreme Judicial Court ruled that municipal flagpoles they are not supposed to be used for public expression. So in response to that, this ordinance was drafted. I want to speak to something that Mr. Morabito brought up, which he believed the ordinance would be protecting us in some respect. I believe that's what he said. But I'd also like to point out that most recently, Nashua, New Hampshire, adopted an ordinance quite similar to what the city proposed, and they did just get, they are being sued because they denied a flag. And it was stated that the fact that they denied a flag is that it gave city officials unbridled discretion to censor speech they dislike. So it really does need to be an all or nothing policy. And I just want to caution that allowing everything, there will be times that things will be very controversial, very sensitive. So I just think we need to really think long and hard about which way we want to go, but I do believe it needs to be an all or nothing policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. This will be referred to the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee.
Calendar item number 4, hearing called as ordered on an ordinance establishing rules and regulations for veterans memorial poles in the city of Revere.
This is a public hearing. We will open it to proponents, people that are in favor. Good evening. Name and address, please.
All right. Before we have any other opponents speak, I wanted to request that this council, if it is in their wish, put forth a motion that was brought up by Councilor Silvestri at the last meeting to add a new subsection to section 12.22.30 eligibility, which would read section E, or whichever letter we end up doing, 20 years of active duty service, in the United States Armed Forces shall deem an individual eligible for a memorial pole, notwithstanding verification of service through the Veterans Service Office. So if we do hear from folks on either side, I would ask that you keep that in mind.
Thank you. Just a point of information, we would not be able to make that amendment during a public hearing, but this is going to Legislative Affairs. With that said, are there any other proponents? Anyone else in favor? Seeing and hearing none?
Hi, Julia Cervantes, Veteran Service Officer, Revere Veteran Services. I want to thank this City Council body for taking a look at this and listening to this. I just want you to know that our office is a proponent of this proposed ordinance, and I hope you take a good look at it, and if you have any questions, we're here to answer them, or concerns. And as it is written, we're a proponent for it.
Thank you very much.
Good.
Any other proponents? Anyone else in favor? Seeing and hearing none, close that side.
Could I just ask a question?
Just let me close the proponents and opponents side, then I'll have you up, sir. Closing the proponent side, are there any opponents, people opposed to the ordinance? Anyone not in favor? Seeing and hearing none. Sir?
So my question is, you said 20 years of service?
20 years of service was an additional category.
It's an additional
Yes.
category. So this would include combat veterans that were killed in action, okay.
Absolutely.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this point, I will open it up to city councilors. Councilor Silvestri.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank the Veterans Office and the city for coming forward and making this a cleaner process. It really needed to happen and clean up a lot of it, and I think this is going to be a positive thing for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Zambuto.
Thank you, Mr. President. I, too, want to thank the Veterans Office, and it's a long time coming, and I'm very happy that this is being proposed, and I will support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. This will be referred to Legislative Affairs.
Calendar item number 5, hearing called as ordered on an ordinance further amending the zoning ordinances of the City of Revere, repealing the definition and use of mechanical parking systems.
This is a public hearing. Are there any proponents, people in favor, wishing to speak? Seeing and hearing none, close that side. Are there any opponents? Anyone not in favor? Seeing and hearing none, close that side. Open it up to city councilors. This is going to be referred to the zoning subcommittee.
Calendar item number 6, hearing called as ordered on a zoning ordinance establishing definitions, uses, special permit district boundaries, and regulations for marijuana establishments.
This is a public hearing. We will open it up to proponents, people that are in favor of this ordinance. Name and address for the record, please.
I'm almost done. Clarence Rillo, 281 Broadway, Solicitor's Office. Again, as the city clerk noted, we can't make the amendment considerations tonight, but we do, the Department of Planning and the Solicitor's Office has the amendments that were raised by several councilors from the last meetings, and we're prepared to move forward with those.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other proponents, sir? Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Don Martelli, 39 Dale Street. I come as a proponent to this motion through several lenses. The first one is through being somebody who, from a professional standpoint, who's worked with those that have operated these businesses in general urban communities where they're stringent upon safety, hiring practices, and making sure that they support communities in a variety of ways, not next to schools, near churches, and so on and so forth. Second lens is as a member of the Board of Directors for the Revere Chamber of Commerce. Our role is to make sure we support this governing body to support economic development in our community. So diversifying the types of businesses we welcome to our community. You go up and down Broadway, salons, liquor stores, auto zones, you name it. I think, having a diversified set of businesses in our community is most welcome from a chamber perspective. And 3, tax revenue, commercial tax revenue, retail tax revenue. I know that the model is somewhat shaky at this particular point, but in every community around where we live, there are these locations. You go over the border, going to Chelsea and so on and so forth, they're there. The model has been proven, so I would be in favor of this motion as we move forward, so I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other proponents? Good evening, sir. Name and address for the record.
Good evening, Richard Viskey, CFO, City of Revere, 281 Broadway. Any type of new recurring revenue that this city can collect would be great. It's not earmarked for anything right now. I think this is a great revenue source that we can consider maybe putting towards the construction of a new high school. I am in favor of it. The city is surrounded by communities in East Boston, Chelsea, and Lynn. They're advertising all over our city. They're on every border of our city, and I think it'd be a little short-sighted to let everyone else take advantage of this revenue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other proponents? Anyone else in favor? Seeing and hearing none, I will close that side of the hearing. Any opponents, people against the ordinance? Good evening, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Wayne Rose, Revere Street again. I'm against this for a few reasons. We're looking for revenue, but at what cost? At people's health. We're trying to do away with tobacco products, yet we're going to bring in other smoking products. It just don't make sense to me. That's it. Thank you. Very simple.
Thank you, sir. Any other opponents, people not in favor? Seeing and hearing none, I will close that side of the... Oh, sorry, ma'am. My apologies. Name and address for the record, please.
Marcia Rivera Ragusa, 4229 Tamargo Drive in Newport Richey. However, I'm a property owner on Rumney Road. I just want to get a little bit of history out there. In 2017, our council vice president, but now mayor, actually put a motion to have a permanent ban on marijuana back then. At that time, it was pretty unanimous with the council that they wanted it, so they approved it. I'm just curious. There are some questions that I have, and I think it needs to go back to the people. The reason why the mayor decided to put that ban in play or propose that ban was because most of the people voted against it. They voted against having marijuana dispensaries in the city of Revere. My question is, why is it going to the city council? Why isn't it going back to the voters and make it a voting or a ballot question? This way, it wouldn't be a decision on you, it would be a decision on us, because we're the ones who have to tolerate a dispensary. The other question is, one of the councilors said that there were 2 locations you were considering. I'd like to know where that is. And I think the rest of the population of Revere should know what's being considered and where. Because the impact, I know everyone needs revenue, and my suggestion was, if you allow me to ticket people going down, I live on a one-way street, if I could just ticket the people going the wrong way, we could eliminate tax rolls, and we don't have to worry about a revenue problem. So I'm an opponent, but I'd consider changing my position if the information, which is what's the anticipated revenue, traffic, and hopefully it's not going to be in Ward 3. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other opponents? Anyone else not in favor? Seeing and hearing none, close that side. Any councilors? Councilor Silvestri.
Thank you, Mr. President. And although I love the opinions from people that live in Newport, I think this is a great motion for us to be a part of. I think this is a great, we've let the time pass that all the mystery about it, all the legality problems, all the issues that it brings up, and that people say it's going to cause traffic, it's going to cause. The average time in a dispensary is 5 minutes. You are not allowed to hang in the parking lot. You're not allowed to do anything in which you think is going to be a down on the city. Every corner around us is surrounded by these stores, and they're all producing very well amounts of money. And why we would say, no, we're opposed to do this and not get revenue sources is we're trying to build a high school. We're trying to look for resources and ways to fund these things. We approved, here's what gets me. We approved X amount of liquor licenses three weeks ago. No one came up here and said, boo. Why is that? I don't understand where the stigma comes in around the marijuana, but as far as liquor stores, we can continue to throw them on every corner in every neighborhood, but no one has an issue with that. That's an issue with me, but I'll save that for the hearing. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Hess?
Thank you, Mr. President. I had a question for maybe Tom from Planning could answer, or maybe Rich. I wanted to talk a little bit about the community fees, and I've read some things online that said due to shops opening up in certain cities and towns that they were able to boost their police force. I'm just curious what the community or the impact fee, what that can be used on in the city. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll start, and Rich, if I'm wrong on the details, feel free to back me up here. But there's a few different sources of potential revenue here. One of them is the 3% tax on the retail stores themselves, and that is something that, Mr. Viskey has done an overview of a few different cities, Arlington, Brookline, Chelsea, Lynn, Melrose, and Salem, just to get a sense of what type of revenue we'd be talking about with that 3% add-on. And just for context, Arlington receives about, on a 3-year average, $270,000 a year, Brookline about $890,000 a year, Chelsea about $330,000, Lynn about $333,000, Melrose $240,000, and Salem about $1 million a year based off of the 3-year average between 2021, 22, and 23. And then the second item, which I think is what you were referring to, Councilor, relates to impact fees. So when this originally started in about 2017, there were host community agreements that communities signed that outlined oftentimes there was an upfront payment that a facility would need to make, and then an annual payment for 5 to 7 years, and that has all been removed due to some indiscretion, and Fall River is the perfect example where there was outright bribery, right? So they removed that, and instead the only other impact fees you can collect in that sense of the term is something that you would collect from any other business seeking a special permit. So in this case, CIT is still something that would be an acceptable fee that we could collect. And then anything that's directly tied to impacts that we can clearly outline from a public health and a public safety standpoint, above and beyond that 3% tax, we would need to include that in the host community agreement, come to an agreement with the facility, and then document, whether it's police detail for having traffic issues, whether it's a prevention program related to youth diversion. It's all about being really clear and upfront about what those causes are, and then documenting it. And then the third source of revenue is, just the property tax increases from enhanced investment in those facilities.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Kelly.
Thank you. So Tom, if you could, just so I could follow up on that just for a second. So the 3-year averages that we have regarding the cities that you mentioned, that is just revenue, correct? And if any of those host agreement fees were in place during any of these years previous, those fees are not included in those numbers, correct?
That's correct. This is just revenue.
Okay. So, and I think that was all I had for you, but, actually, I don't know if, as a follow-up to our conversation, if you were able to find out about certified mail requirements in any other cities or towns yet, or no?
I haven't heard of any of those requirements from other cities or towns. You had mentioned that Malden might require that. I looked into their regulations as well as the CCC.
Yeah.
And what I suspect is it might be best practice that a lot of the companies end up doing that, because they need to then show that they've reached out to the abutters using sort of a good faith effort, and maybe some go above and beyond, but I hadn't seen an outright requirement.
So in order for me to support this, I have a ton of amendments that I would like to see happen. But as Rich Visquet pointed out, I would like to make an amendment that I haven't spoken on previously to make sure that 100% of the revenue goes into the high school stabilization fund from these facilities. And some of my other amendments have to do specifically with locations, increasing the buffer zones, increasing the criteria for the butter notification under the special permit process. And I do want to just touch on what Ms. Ragusa did say, because that was something that I was grappling with as well in terms of letting the citizens and the residents have a voice. Where this was voted on in 2016, and it lost, there were 9,197 yes votes to 10,228 no votes. So it seemed to me as well, like, gee, shouldn't we maybe put this back on as a ballot question? But I explored that question with the city clerk and some other things, and basically what it boils down to is because of the statewide passage and an amendment that was done in 2017, we wouldn't be able to put this on a ballot question unless this ordinance were doing three specific things or asking to do three specific things, and this ordinance is not asking them. So one of them would be, trying to prohibit operation, which this ordinance is not doing. It would be trying to limit establishments to fewer than 20% of all alcohol package stores, and it would be trying to limit the number of any type of marijuana establishments to fewer than the number of medical marijuana treatment centers. So those would be the only instances that we would be allowed to put this back on a ballot question, unfortunately. But I will make my formal amendments available for the subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. President. In 2017, I was on the City Council, and I voted no. And the reason why I voted no is because there was no data. And I was also a teacher for 32 years, and we had a zero tolerance policy. But since then, since 2017, I've seen, first of all, I've seen what gummies, I know it's going to be funny, but I see what gummies, when you take gummies, people take them for sleep, they take them for anxiety, they take them to de-stress. So there's a lot of beneficial things that go with this. The other thing is these dispensaries are so regulated, they're so strict. The way they regulate them is so strict. And the other thing too is you could just call up Happy Valley in Chelsea and say, hey, I want a pack of gummies, can you deliver them? And they'll come right to Revere. So we are missing out on revenue. We really are. We're trying to build a new high school. We can use every single penny, but my whole attitude has changed towards this because I can see the benefits of some of these products that are that these dispensaries are selling. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. This is going to be, Councilor Guarino-Sawaya.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree with Councilor McKenna. Years ago, when I was sick and diagnosed with cancer, that's the first thing that they offered to me was medical marijuana. And I was always, always against it. But now I see that there are benefits to having it, and having it in our city would be the most important reason would be the revenue. The revenue it's extraordinary what we could bring in for this high school. And you know, I'm all about making money to build this high school for the kids in Revere. And just by listening to the numbers that Tom had to say, the city of Salem's making $1 million a year $1 million a year? Look at how fast we can build a high school by allowing this in our city, where everyone else is going to every other city around us to get it. So I am a proponent for this, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Yaramillo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Wanted to ask from Councilor Silvestri, where are we going to do with this? This came out of...
This is going back to zoning. This is going to zoning subcommittee.
Okay.
And that's where we're going to put it right now. Thank you.
Calendar item number 7, hearing called is ordered on an ordinance repealing the prohibition of non-medical marijuana establishments.
This is a public hearing. Proponents are first. Anyone in favor? Seeing and hearing none, close that side. Any opponents? People not in favor? Sir, name and address for the record, please.
Wayne Rose, Revere Street. I hear a lot about revenues. Have we checked to see about the health risks of this stuff? Because I think that's where we should start. It's not about all the revenue, it's about what this can do to people and the health risks that are going to appear out of this. And what's the cost of the medical health risk? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other opponents? Seeing and hearing none. City councilors? All right, this is going to zoning subcommittee. Actually, is it going to legislative affairs?
You could send it to either or. This particular ordinance is not in zoning.
Legislative affairs.
Calendar item number 8, hearing called is ordered on an ordinance further amending section 2.03.050 of the Revere revised ordinances relative to open meetings.
This is a public hearing. We'll open it to proponents. Anyone in favor? Seeing and hearing none, close that side. Opponents, anyone not in favor? Seeing and hearing none, close that side. Any city councilors wishing to speak? Legislative affairs.
Calendar item number 9, hearing called is ordered on the application of Jasmine Tabarez and Javier Giego, 86 Lincoln Street, Revere, Mass., requesting a special permit to operate a health club within the GB district at 220 Broadway.
This is a public hearing. We'll start it with proponents. Good evening, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Javier Gallego, and I'm here for the project Gym Boutique called Motive Action at 220 Broadway. So, I'm being personal trainer for almost 20 years, and this is one of my dreams to open up a gym boutique. It has been like several years trying to find a good space to open it, and I've been working on it, so I really found this space at 220, and I want to provide to the Revere community to get healthier and happier, because the gym boutique is kind of different service of a regular gym. So we're gonna do like group classes, and we're gonna provide different kinds of workouts and training, and I'm pretty sure that people is gonna like this kind of project to open up here in this part of Revere. And I'm really happy to answer any questions about it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other proponents? Anyone else in favor? Good evening, sir. Name and address, please, for the record.
Good evening. Nick Dare, 228 Bellingham Ave. I'm actually the owner of this building. I just purchased it a couple months ago, but I'm also up here as a small business owner on Broadway. Having reviewed a lot of applications for this space, I took in consideration kind of what Broadway is looking for as well. That could also benefit my business as well as all the other businesses. I walk Broadway every day. I can't help but notice it is getting stale. I think bringing life, bringing customers is going to benefit everyone. I know just a couple months ago, majority of the restaurants on Broadway were up here, kind of pointing the finger at food trucks, which sure was maybe part of the problem of it being slow, but it's also the activity. So I think the city has an opportunity to, while encouraging a healthy and active lifestyle, also bring life and customers into Broadway. And I know one of the concerns is maybe that the lack of parking, but we were lucky enough that just 2 months ago, Stantec came in and pointed out that the Broadway, only 56% of the parking is being utilized, which they also meant that Broadway is underutilized. So I think we should be focusing on how can we bring business into Broadway, and I think this is a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other proponents? Anyone else in favor? Seeing and hearing none, close that side. Any opponents? Anyone not in favor? Seeing and hearing none, I'll close that side. City councilors? Councilor Agenzio?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm all in favor of this. This is my area that I represent, and I'm in favor of this business. It's a nice minority-owned business. The area, the spot that has been vacated for a lot of years, and the last thing you want on Broadway is empty storefronts. I believe their classes are going to be small, 10, 15 people, so it's not inundating Broadway with extra traffic. I think it's an excellent addition to Broadway. I know they personally went up, and I think we all got a signed copy of the businesses along Broadway that support it. So I'm all in favor of it, and I hope my colleagues see it the same way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Permission to speak from the chair? Thank you very much. I equate this to the Iron Gym that just opened up down the other end of Broadway. The same style, small classes, one-on-one personal training, and they're directly across the street from a very busy area with Manny's and Sabella's and whatnot. So I think it's going to be a good addition. I also owned a business a block away from there for 20 years, and I think you're going to do very well in that area, so I'll be supporting this. This is going to be referred to the zoning subcommittee.
Calendar item number 10, hearing called as ordered on a petition submitted by National Grid to install underground conduits from pole number 637 across Kimball Ave for a new electrical service to a new development at 650 Beach Street.
This is a public hearing. Open it up to proponents.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. Go ahead.
Petra Jeka, 170 Medford Street from Malden, representing National Grid. So National Grid would like to install 2 4-inch conduits from pole 637 on Kimball Ave and continuing across the street to the property at 650 Beach Street so that it can feed the new building that is currently under construction there.
Thank you, sir. Any other proponents? Anyone else in favor? Seeing and hearing none, close that side. Any opponents? Anyone else not in favor? Seeing and hearing none.
Mr. President.
Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this is my neighborhood, and you have 2 brand-new buildings there. The question I have to you is, why can't they go from pole 636 instead of interrupting everything from those 4 houses in that corner?
So as far as I was told, they are planning on using 636 for the other building next to it. I don't know, I don't think there's going to be any more space on it after what they're planning on doing there, because they're planning on putting another transformer on the pole, and they're going to plan to feed the building next to it. That's why. That's all.
And these are overhead wires? Underground?
They are overhead. They're planning on trenching. That's why they want to install.
Trenching across the roadways?
Across the road.
Okay. The only issue I have is, I usually like to be contacted beforehand so I know what's going on.
Yes.
And I had no clue this was happening.
I had zero idea as well. So this came to me pretty
bring
recently.
Bring that back to your supervisors, please.
Okay, absolutely.
I would like to know what's going on in my neighborhood.
Okay.
So, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors? Counselor Hess?
Thank you, Mr. President. This doesn't have to do with this motion, but I would just like to put on record that if you guys could check poll 2701 on Malden Street, and it's right after Newman Street, so Newman Street, Malden Street. It's poll 2701, and it looks like it's about to fall over any day now. But we'd appreciate
This
it.
was Malden Street, you said?
Malden Street.
Okay, we'll take a look at that.
Thank you.
Counselor, I've actually put a request in for that too, a while ago. It looks, it's leaning pretty good. Might need to be supported with another.
Might need to, like a guy wire or something, an anchor.
And I'll give you credit, 2 meetings in a row you've been here. Very nice. One more, you're on a winning streak, I think. Okay, so keep it up. All
I'm
right.
surprised we didn't run them out yet.
Well, if he could deal with us last week, he can deal with pretty much anything. So, congratulations. All right, Madam Clerk. Actually, you know what? We don't need a roll. On the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 11, motion presented by Councilors, this is the Ways and Means Subcommittee report.
Councilor Silvestri.
Thank you, Mr. President. This evening, we had two things that come out, two motions that come out with favorable recommendations to the full council. The first was a motion from Councilor Novoselsky for 4, 5, and 6 for water meters, a break in the water bill. That passed favorably. And what's that? Oh, yes, both will be sent to public hearing.
Very good. Thank you very much, Councilor.
Next up is the Elder Affairs Subcommittee report.
Councilor Guarino Sawaya.
The committee decided to leave it in committee until more research can be done, and I'm going to work alongside the CFO and the Chief of Infrastructure to get an equitable solution for both the city and the seniors. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Communications, calendar item number 14, communication from the city auditor relative to the Capital Improvement Stabilization Fund appropriation.
Mr. Viskey.
Good evening, everybody. Richard Viskey, CFO, 281 Broadway. Before you this evening is what we would have as an annual appropriation from the city's Capital Improvement Stabilization Fund to fund those capital items that are considered pay-as-you-go. The appropriation is before you. I can read through them or answer any questions, but most of them are pretty perfunctory in nature with regard to the needs that we provide through the CIP. It's usually those items that we can fund without selling bonds, and I'm looking for favorable action on that. I would like to mention that the auditor and the budget director's office had put in for a community compact grant for best practice program for fiscal year 25, and we were successful in getting 2 grants in the amount of $54,200. We got a $35,000 grant to overhaul our capital improvement plan with with the high school as part of the big major new item on there. And we also did get a grant of $19,200 to rewrite financial policies and procedures, a lot of which will be geared towards modifying our policies to help gear us toward successful construction of the new Revere High School. So I want to congratulate my staff and my assistant budget director on getting that grant. But in the meantime, there are some needs capital-wise that we'd like to address while we wait for that program to start. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Unless there's any questions, I'd just like to take a roll call on these. Madam Clerk.
Shall the City Council approve a transfer in the amount of $650,000 from the Capital Improvement Stabilization Fund for the purchase of various capital items as listed on the Auditor's Verification of Funds dated September 18th, 24? Councilor Argenzio.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Janino.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Guarino Sawaya?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Haas?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Jaramillo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna? Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Silvestri?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Cogliandro?
Yes.
Yes, the transfer has been approved. Calendar item number 15, communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ida Cody to the Retirement Board.
Do we want to send this to appointments or vote appointments?
Motions, calendar item number 16, motion presented by Councilors Argenzio, Haas, and Silvestri, that the mayor request the DPW to assist the owners of Murray's Tavern with the installation of a flagpole. The owners of Murray's Tavern have graciously offered to donate a flagpole to be placed at the corner of Page Street and Broadway on the newly created island in front of the tavern. This location would be a perfect spot to display the American flag as people enter the city from Chelsea and Route 16.
Councilor Argenzio.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, John and Greg, the owners of Murray's, have graciously donated a flagpole. It's a great location. They've done a lot to revitalize that end of Broadway, not only with their business, but with that landscaped area as you come in from Chelsea. I think this would be the finishing touches. The city just put in a big plaza area in front of their business. It's a perfect location, and I want to thank the John and Greg Murray for giving us this opportunity to put a flag there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thought this was a great idea when I first heard about it from Greg Murray, and after speaking with Paul Argenzio and Mark Silvestri, I thought it would be something that would be a sense of pride for the city. You drive in, you see a huge American flag. And, you know, Greg and John have done great work. They're great people. They run a great business. They do a lot for the community. And I just want to say, I think we need more businesses like Murray's Tavern in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Silvestri.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I think this is a great motion. Any chance we get to fly the American flag, I'm all for it. So maybe Murray's would like to have the flag events that we were discussing earlier. You never know. Thank you, Mr. President.
Oh, boy. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think that was a great one from Mark. At first glance, I'm really in favor of this, of course, because I'm a big American flag guy. I just want to make sure this is city property, correct? Yes. So he's donating the flag and we're putting it on city property. I think we're okay there. I was a little worried there might be some kind of a conflict here because most of you know we cannot spend city money on private property. But this is a different situation. I think we're okay with this. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. On the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 17, motion presented by Councilors Kelly and Cogliandro, that the mayor request the owner of the hotel being constructed at 125 Squire Road to appear before the city council to provide a construction update. It appears that construction has not been progressing.
Councilor Kelly.
Thank you. Yes, I just want to, a number of residents contacted me saying that they were concerned that the construction there has not been progressing. It doesn't look like it is, and I just want to be cautious of having blighted properties around the city and to make sure that that's not happening. So if we could just get an update as to what the construction schedule looks like, I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Permission to speak from the chair? I just want to say that I completely agree with Councilor Kelly. Thanks for having me on this motion. All in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 18, motion presented by Councilors Kelly and Janino, that the mayor request the owner of Popeye's project at 304 Squire Road to appear before the city council to provide an update on the construction.
Councilor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, same premise here. I believe the special permit was granted for the construction of this Popeyes restaurant. We're coming up on almost 3 years, and it seems that the only thing we have is just the shell of a business. I did actually receive a construction schedule, which doesn't look too promising, and I've heard a number of times that this restaurant was going to be ready and opening on several different occasions previously, and it never seemed to come to fruition. So again, the site at times has not been maintained. It is becoming just an eyesore. So I think we need to find out exactly how construction here is progressing as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Janino.
It seems the Popeyes at a standstill over there, and construction's halted. The lot appears to be abandoned, and I'd like to call them back in here to answer to what's going on with it.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Hess.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm totally in favor of this motion. I probably receive the most comments and questions about this location, so I think it's good that we get an answer from the company. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. On the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 19, motion presented by Councilor Kelly, that the mayor request the DPW to examine the corner of Gordon and Sargent Streets at the Whalen School to determine if an additional crosswalk and handicap ramp can be installed in the interest of student and pedestrian safety.
Councilor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. President. The motion speaks for itself. I just want to be mindful. I know that there is a residence there, and I just want to be mindful of that residence, of course, but I think in the interest of public safety, it should at least be looked into to see if we could accommodate another crosswalk there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors? On the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 20, motion presented by Councilor McKenna, that the mayor request the License Commission to use its full and total discretion for implementing conditions for special one-day event licenses, including but not limited to setting a maximum number of attendees, require headcount staff at point of entry, require public or private security, require minimum number of restroom facilities, and/or submission of parking traffic plans.
Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Sunday, September 15th, there was a day permit taken out for a private party at the Beachmont School field known as Fredericks Park. Between 6,000 and 10,000 people showed up. The fee to get into this outdoor venue was $20. Not to pay the fee, hundreds of people were going into residence yards and jumping over the fences to get into the event. There was not enough bathroom facilities to accommodate the crowd. People were urinating and defecating in Beachmont Square and in residential yards. From the police report that I received, thousands of people were there with not enough fire, police, or security presence. Cars were parked bumper to bumper on every single street inundating Beachmont, leaving residents without parking spaces. In Beachmont, on nearly every street, there is 24/7 permit parking. Not one ticket was passed out to these cars that came from other cities. People were walking around our community drinking alcohol in paper bags and littering our streets. This event was at the expense of the Beachmont residents that had to endure this chaos. Traffic was backed up all the way down Crescent Ave and backed up to Orion Heights. People were parking in driveways that weren't even theirs. There was no good reason to have this event in a small community like Beachmont. The event could have been held at the Suffolk Downs track, where there is all the accommodations for a massive crowd like this. As long as I am a Ward 1 councilor in this city, this will not happen again in my neighborhood. This was a disgrace. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors wishing to speak? Councilor Silvestri.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a great motion. I learned a lot, actually, because I sat in that traffic all the way down Bennington Street. So I learned who created the event and where it stemmed from. I didn't know private citizens could pull permits to have big parties like that and then pay without the city
They
charging anything. So I just think that it needs, this can't happen again in any neighborhood. You know, I don't think city land should be held for permit, public parties. It's just, it shouldn't happen, and it was a mess, I have to say, Councilor McKenna.
And then
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Zambudo?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the first I've heard of this. This is a disgrace. This can never happen again. And the fact that they can get a permit, a license for a one-day event and pull off something like this is egregious. I mean, it's the first time it's ever happened. I've been up here 25 years. I've never seen anything like this. And this can't happen again. So the good news is we're all learning a lesson here, and we got to pay more attention to these one-day licenses and what could go wrong, because this is a classic case of a nightmare. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Guarino-Sawaya?
I actually have more of a question. Thank you, Councilor McKenna, for bringing this to light. Once they go in front of the licensing commission, don't they have to tell them how many attendees are going there? So how did this happen?
I would gather they said,
Should we have somebody from license come and see us?
Counselor McKenna.
So it was advertised, it was overly advertised, and people from other cities came. So it wasn't just Revere residents, it was other cities. And I don't think they knew the magnitude of what was going on. But what happened was, when they were charging the $20, people were jumping over, they were going through yards, jumping over the fences. There was no bathrooms. There was no bathrooms at all. They opened the Beachmont School, but there was such a large crowd, people couldn't go to the bathroom. So they were defecating and, urinating everywhere. And that's in the police report. The police report says, I put my own thought into this, but I read the police report, and the police report said this: thousands of people, not enough fire, not enough police, not enough security, defecating, urinating everywhere, bumper-to-bumper traffic. So it was to the expense of the Beachmont community. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Hess?
Thank you, Mr. President. I totally agree with Councilor McKenna. Any kind of event like that should not be allowed. I can't imagine living close by in one of the houses and having to deal with the traffic and the amount of people that were there. But another thing is, we always talk about our fields, keeping our fields in great shape. And what's that size of a crowd going to do to a field, or possibly damage it? Thank you.
Counselor McKenna?
Thank you. I got a number of calls, but 311 got calls too, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard they got so many calls, they were inundated, they didn't answer the phone after a certain time, so.
Thank you. Counselor Novoselsky?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm appalled. I didn't know this happened. I was around. I was away, that's right. And the only thing I know about, having experience going to License Commission meetings, when they have the application, they ask what the expected crowd is. So I don't know what these folks told them at that point, but, they shouldn't be giving city property out to private groups like this. I know we do have an issue with Parks and Recreation, because some of our fields are used by private groups through the fields. And, and I'll just use, St. Mary's ball fields as an example, because their baseball league is private. It's not a city function. And we built the fields for them, but they can use them. But those are a little more under control. They're little kids and parents, and hopefully parents don't beat up the referees or umpires, like we see something on Facebook, but I'm glad you brought this up, and I would definitely make mention of this to the chairman when I see him. So, thank you.
I called a lot of people.
Thank you, Counselor. Permission to speak from the chair? Thank you. Counselor McKenna, I'd like to make an amendment to the motion and add something. In the bar and nightclub industry, there's something called a crowd manager certificate. At least one person on the staff has to have it, and that's for venues that hold over 100 people. I don't know if you'd be willing to add this to the motion and require somebody associated with the event to have that crowd manager certification.
Wayne Rose, Revere Street. When the police came out, did they shut down that immediately?
So, no. So what happened was I called the mayor, and the mayor went down and shut it down at 6:30. But there was not enough police presence. There was police down there, but there wasn't enough police presence for the crowd that was there. There wasn't enough fire. If in the police report, it said there should have been like an ambulance or something stationed there because the crowd was so he said thousands in his police report. So
So when the police showed up and they knew it was a safety issue, they did not shut down the event, correct?
I don't know, Mr. Rose, if the police went down. I know I called the mayor.
You said you had a police report.
Oh, I got the police report, yes.
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 Well,
They didn't shut it down.
Does it state it in the police report?
No.
No, so they allowed this to continue.
I think
That's a disgrace.
Well, I'll tell you, and I'm not trying to, defend the police or not, but 11 o'clock, I was down the Cape, and I came home at 11 o'clock, and there was nothing.
I got stuck in traffic
This
there
started-
for over 2 hours.
What time was it?
It was around,
In the afternoon?
yes.
Yeah, so it just built and built and built. It started at 1, 4 o'clock, that's when I went down. And
Sure.
I just witnessed and took pictures and everything. And then
Parking
I
did go all
called
the way to
Mayor, I
Orion
called
Heights.
Mayor Keefe. And he went down, and he said it would be shut down at 6:30. He called me at 6:30, he said, they're shutting it down now. I don't know how long it was supposed to go on for, what time he had the permit until, but it was shut down at 6:30.
Until 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Yeah, so, it was a family event, believe it or not. There was kids there, they had the bubble house and.
The bouncy house, I see.
Bouncy house, and they had a bunch of things for the kids. So you did see a lot of families. The only thing is, there was 10,000 people. And the reason why is because he over-advertised it. And then everybody came from other cities to this event.
My thing is that when the police came down, they found out that it was a safety issue. It should have been shut down immediately. That's all I have to say. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir. On the motion as amended, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 21, motion presented by Council President Cogliandro, that the mayor and superintendent of public schools be requested to appear before the city council to give an update on any new measures being considered and/or taken in regards to the security and safety of our students and staff members.
Permission to speak from the chair. Thank you. Thank you to the members of the RTA that came tonight and waited patiently. I also invited the Student Senate, and with the permission of the council, at some point I would like to read the statement they issued to me. I don't want to do it right this second, but I just want to clear a couple of things up. I have been discussing this issue with students, parents, teachers, and multiple school committee members, and we're all trying to work together for an outcome that benefits everybody. And where I completely agree with the reasoning to have these safety and security subcommittee meetings at 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock, which the reasoning is that we want to hear from the SROs. They are a very important part of the safety and security of our schools. So yes, we want to accommodate them. What I'm doing by filing these is opening up another area where people can come and speak and tell us about their concerns. And further, the two most important people, the people that we're trying to keep safe and secure, the staff, and the students. These are the people I want to hear from, and it's virtually impossible for them to get to these safety and security meetings. So I will always, always do my part. If anyone knows me, public safety is my life. I teach people to take care of themselves. So I am going to be a champion for this. And I'm sorry if anyone has a problem with that, but I'm not sorry. I do want to say, I was at the last Safety and Security Subcommittee meeting for the school committee. I want to thank School Committeeman John Kingston, who was here today. Thank you for being here, sir. I want to thank School Committeeman Anthony Caggiano and Aisha, School Committee woman Aisha Millsbury-Ellis. They're not here with us today, but I just want to say that they're doing a great job. They asked a lot of great questions, a lot of good ideas. I really like the idea of the real talks. I think that's a great idea. Instead of sending a kid to in-house where I pretty much had my name on a chair, they'll go and talk to somebody like me who knows, who understands, and I think that's much better. I am thrilled that we are going to do a security assessment to see the needs of the building. My daughter goes to Peabody High School. They have security at every exit. They have cameras in the hallways, and they also have SROs. So I don't see why that would be an issue, but I'm really thrilled to hear about that. And also there was talk about panic buttons. I know that's a little hit or miss for people, but I don't see an issue with them. I think it's another level of safety. And of course, I'm going to give the counselors an opportunity to speak. But I think that's pretty much it. And again, tonight I know there's going to be some people speaking. If we could just stick to the security and safety. No talks of contract negotiations, no talks of flooding or anything. Just keep it to safety, security. I would greatly appreciate it. But I do want to give everybody an opportunity to speak. Before I read the statement from the Student Senate, does any of the counselors wish to speak on this issue for now? With your permission, I'd like to read this. Thank you. And then we will offer up to everyone who wants to say a few words, okay? Dear Revere City Council, as the past 4 weeks have marked the start of the new school year, they have also been a difficult time for many of us. Students have had to deal with their high school being filmed, prodded, and investigated by the broader media. Throughout all of this, our voices have only been heard in the context of reporters pushing microphones into students' faces. There must be a clearer system in place for communication. We are proud to begin the work towards broader student engagement, and we thank you for taking the time to hear our concerns. With many students finally adjusting to the school year, we have come up with the ideas to bring more students into the conversation. Our first idea and forum for discussion is titled RHS Talks, in which the entire RHS student body will be invited to discuss the topic of school safety in the coming weeks. This forum will last throughout the year as a resource for students to be heard. This will be a student-only discussion, fully attended and led by students. We hope this will be a safe outlet for students to voice their frustrations and concerns. Additionally, we have sent out a school-wide form to collect data on what students think of policies proposed. We hope these efforts will work towards including more students in this process. So far, the RHS Student Senate has already convened once this school year. At that meeting, we piloted the RHS talk structure. Through our 1-hour-long meeting, multiple trends appeared. Overwhelmingly, students noted feeling dehumanized by the public attention and mischaracterization of RHS. Furthermore, students note that the lack of student voice and transparency worsened the situation overall. Students mention that security must be strengthened, but through realistic means. Proposed solutions such as metal detectors did not seem effective given the high cost and interruptions it would cause, as more students would be late to class in the mornings. Students noted that increased security presence could help students stay on track. Overall, students noted the need for more engagement with students who do not feel interested in education. This could include alternative learning opportunities or mentorship programs. Student senators are aware of the issues of school violence are not simply due to one factor, but a mix of factors rooted in difficulties at home with school engagement. While the RHS Student Senate has come to a consensus regarding some trends we have experienced, this is just the beginning. Our discussion was meant to simulate the efforts that should be done with all students, not just student senators. While the Student Senate has a dedicated body of students, we represent an extremely small fraction of the school population. We are working on creating translation forms, equipping teachers with the capacity to connect interest students with the Student Senate, and planning future RHS talks. Our experiences offer only a glimpse into the experiences of all students at RHS. We once again thank you for your consideration and hope you treat this topic with the sensitivity it deserves. As we take our time and due diligence with this process, we hope you remain patient as we gauge more student feedback. This process is only possible through compromise and engagement, and we thank you for including us in this journey. The end. These kids are way smarter than we were in high school. My God. So if there's any counselors wishing to speak, if not, I would like to open the floor to anyone who would like to speak tonight. And if you would like to speak, just come to the center and we'll get going. Good evening, ma'am. Name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Andrea Eichelman. I live in Winthrop on Shirley Street. I spoke to you just recently, 2 weeks ago, about listening to teachers, and I have to say thank you so much. So much of that movement that is starting to happen, I think, is happening because you gave us a place to speak, and I do appreciate that. And of course, the students, how amazing they write, and we've spoken to them as well. They are the ones who are at the forefront here, even more so than us. I'm here tonight to introduce the other teachers who will be speaking to you about security concerns that have not yet been addressed. I am also here to draw attention that the school committee has started to move, as we have seen, with discussions about security proposals, but have yet to include the RTA in any of these discussions. But this movement, I think, is because we were here 2 weeks ago, because we've been in the newspaper and on the news. The RTA has pointed a spotlight at the security issues within the district, and the teachers here tonight are here after our full-time jobs to shed light on the valid and solvable problems that we have here. The movement of the school committee shows that we're not very far apart on security in mindset or in bargaining, and that the school committee does need to continue to listen to teachers and engage collaboratively with the RTA. I know that there are hurt feelings on both sides. The school committee does not like being told that they haven't addressed a significant concern, such as security, and we in turn do not like to be called liars or rabble-rousers. To that, I would like to say, and I'm sorry, my phone is blowing up as we're here. To that, I would like to say that I have dedicated almost half my life to RPS. I've taught over 1,000 of our kids, and I do say our kids because there are days when I spend more time with my kids in Revere than I do with my own kids at home. To say that any of us just go home and don't think about the needs of the students of Revere is troubling and misleading and disheartening. None of us just drive home and don't think about the kids until the next morning. The City Council and citizens of Revere watching tonight, your teachers are here as we have always been, and we need your support. Just like we did in COVID, the support from the community has always been for the kids, and at times for the teachers as well, and being able to be here tonight is so important. So we are, as you know, we are here for our kids, for your kids, and that's what we've only ever been here for. So thank you so much for having us again. Good night.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Michelle Irvin. I live in Lynn, Massachusetts, and I'm the RTA co-president. I just want to start with that there are about 2,500 human beings that are in the building of RHS. So with that many people, of course, there are going to be so many different experiences. Are there good things happening at RHS? Yes, of course there is. If there weren't, I would leave. You know, I'm staying there. There are all of us are there fighting for this because we love our job, we love Revere, and there are a lot of good things. The kids are great at the high school. But I find it very irresponsible for us, and especially for our leadership, to continue to ignore the lived experience of those that have laid witness to the violence that has happened in the building. Those that are privileged enough to have never witnessed or never been involved in any of the violence shouldn't be quelling the voice of those who have that lived experience. There are educators, staff, students that are scared, that are traumatized, and that don't feel safe 100% of the time. And we need to remember that as well. There are both sides. There are 2,500 human beings in this building, right? To say that what's been in the media is not true, and we're lying, is shameful. It ignores the hard facts that this violence has been happening for years. Educators, staff, students have been sounding the alarm for years. Also, I want to note that we have not once said that students at RHS are animals or that educators and students are scared of the students themselves. We have actually stated the opposite, and I personally have stated that it makes me extremely sad that almost 20 students in our school now cannot participate in school and getting an education in those walls because they've been suspended or expelled. We want to solve the problem before they get in trouble. I heard from teachers of those students who've been suspended and expelled, and they've said, oh yeah, this morning he was sitting there in my class, he was doing work, he was participating, he was finding success. Just before something happened, there were no systems in place, and now they're suspended or expelled, and no longer are going to be able to sit in that class and get an education. And that is what we want to solve. We want those systems in place to help them before they get in trouble, and we are not happy. What we are happy with is that there has finally been conversation about enhancing security at RHS, and like Andrea had said, that has come from the media. That has come from you guys listening to us. We have been saying it, and finally the community is listening. We don't believe that the conversations have been done in collaboration. We are not happy with that. Yes, there have been conversations, but there's no collaboration between the educators, staff, and students that are involved in all of it. It's just been the school committee and the SROs in those meetings that are not actually up to public speaking. Our solutions, so we don't believe that suspensions, expulsions, the addition of police, private security team, we don't believe all that is going to solve those problems because those are things you put in place after they get in trouble. We want those systems in place before they get in trouble. Our solutions that have been at the table since the beginning and have been consistently ignored at the table are sensible, they're aimed at getting at that root of the problem, and we don't want any more kids to lose out on the education. We also want to thank you, like Andrea did, for listening to us. I just wanted to let you know that after our last time we were here, the teachers were so ecstatic and left here so happy because we were finally listened to. We were finally heard. Councilor McKenna came up with an idea, and we were like, yeah, that's on the table. Right? So we are, that's the collaboration. And if you can come up with that idea, we also had that idea. Why can't the school committee and come to the table and also talk about that idea instead of ignoring it and not even talking about it? Good leaders don't ignore problems. A good leader does not allow hubris to get in the way of finding the solutions. It's just the opposite. A good leader identifies and accepts that there is a problem. Yes, there is a problem, and we're going to work with the stakeholders to solve it. I don't think that the school committee or Dr. Kelly are obtuse and don't know what's happening. I think they fully understand what's happening. I think that right now that there are those bad feelings, and there's hubris, there's pride, there's ego that is causing this separation. And so I implore that our school leaders listen to you, listen to the community, listen to everybody, and that we come back to the table. We're coming back on next Tuesday, October 1st. We come back to the table and we work together to find these solutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Counselor McKenna?
Can you come back up here? I want to ask you a question. I'm sorry. I didn't know this at all, but I've heard from some teachers, and I've heard that they've gotten rid of Seacoast. And they'd made it into City Lab, which is more for, I don't know. I got a definition of more kids that are not really troubled and not really like smart and elite. I was just wondering if, when they got rid of Seacoast, because I had no idea they did this, do you think the problem escalated with them putting these kids from Seacoast back into Revere High School? Honestly?
So we do have a proposal actually on the table to look into this because we did have a building meeting at the high school, and the high school teachers also were concerned that there is no real place for students who need a small, I mean, there are 2,500 people in this building. You know, some students need a smaller space, more intimate, to be able to be successful. So that is something that we have asked the school committee to look into, to try to see if that is something that's feasible, something that is needed. But it did come from the high school teachers, so.
So I just want to say that, you know, in the beginning, when Seacoast was developed, it wasn't good. You know, kids were put in a classroom at Paul Revere School. They watched movies all the time. But as it grew and it went into the Beachmont School, these kids were learning. I mean, they were learning, they were graduating. A lot of them, I think one teacher had, for 20 years, he had all his kids pass the MCAST. So there was success there, you know, and you're right. You know, some kids just need smaller groups and smaller learning. And I really do think that we need a place for these kids that need, you know, special care or special learning to be in these small groups and somewhere in Revere. And I know we're having a problem with space, but you know, here we are with the kids are the most important things, and this is what we really need to do. So I think we really need to come back to the table and bring Seacoast back. And, you know, I don't know what's going on with City Lab. I've heard from a number of teachers that it's more for the elite and it's more for the smart kids, and they had to get interviewed to get in there. And I don't know if any of this is true, but this is what the teachers have told me. So, and they just took these kids that were in Seacoast and put them back in the high school. It's like going from the 8th grade to the 9th grade, or from, you know, I mean.
Counselor, I'm so sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we're getting off topic of safety and security. Thank you for your comments. Counselor Guarino-Sawaya.
Michelle, I just have a quick question. You mentioned that the teachers had their own ideas of what they thought would work. What is one of them?
Well, so all of our, actually all of our, I mean, I know you don't want to talk about the negotiations, but really all of our proposals came from the teachers. So
Okay.
like I was just saying, the idea of some alternative program, alternative area, you know, school, that was an idea that came from the high school teachers in a building meeting. Having some of the, I think it was the tracking system, that was what you had brought up the last time, the tracking system, that came up. It was all among teachers. Someone else had mentioned like a place to, not the in-school suspension room, but like the other room that, you know, a place to talk to that person, that kid who's feeling that way, and help them de-escalate and help them find, you know, they can't just go back into class, those kind of things. These are all things that are on the table currently and all came from teachers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Counselor Kelly.
Thank you. Hi, Michelle. I just, in regards to the tracking system that you mentioned, the panic buttons that have been mentioned, would that somewhat speak to that and allow for a log and a tracking system of events to what you are trying to obtain?
I don't know much about the tracking the buttons and how they work, so I can't really speak to that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Silvestri.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you for all your teachers and Michelle for coming up here tonight. I have been supporting you all and staying by and making sure I understand this wholeheartedly. And as things started to escalate within the schools, I started to really dig deeper into this and really come up with a lot of things that I was looking for. I was looking for answers in school systems throughout the state of Massachusetts. And what struck me by surprise was Revere is actually the leader in SROs, in re-supportive systems and resources. And then I thought I found something new. So I went and I took home what my daughter came home from school with, and it was a thing that she does in advisory, which explains like de-escalation techniques, breathing techniques. And I sent it in and I asked, is this something that we do or are willing to do? And I was told that that's a no. Is there any truth to that? Because that's where I find I'm disappointed. If that's the truth and there are pushback to the systems like these, we're asking for tools, and as we present tools, now we're debating whether we want to use those tools or not. I think if we're all in this for a decision in the right reasons, and that's safety, I think that's what we need to get towards. Yes, please.
Name and address for the record, please.
Please.
Yeah. Hi, Jane Chapin, 15 Guild Street, Boston, Mass. Revere Teachers Association co-president. So if I understand the question correctly, you're saying that you were presented resources?
So my daughter came home with an advisory packet that she does in advisory. It had like breathing techniques, de-escalation stuff. So I took that packet and I sent it into the administration. And I said, I think this looks really good. Do we do something like this? Mm-hmm. And they said that's a contention right now between the administration and the teachers of using those techniques.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely not a contention. In fact, we have implemented all sorts of SEL strategies into our regular core content classrooms and into our advisory classrooms. The advisory class that we have, while those classes look different of how that SEL content is delivered, from school to school, for example, it exists in all the schools. And in fact, we have spent tons of professional development, because as educators, we know what works for our students, mm-hmm. right? And explicitly teaching these types of de-escalation, how to manage stress. They're very good strategies, tools and strategies.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
So I guess what I need to understand are these things that you're all in favor of. So these advisory times and packets, you're all in favor of doing, because I think any tools that we need to give our students should be coming from the staff in doing so, right? And I think those are the important pieces that we need to notify. If there are resources out there that we can provide, and we all need to get those to the students, you're all asking for help, and we're here to offer it. So any way we can, please let us know how.
Yeah,
thank you.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor McKenna, going to be granted leeway, then we're going to go to the next speaker.
Thank you for granting me the privilege of asking another question. I just got a text. What is, I have no idea, because I haven't been in the system for 10 years. What's the RJ room? What is that?
Oh, restorative justice.
Okay, could you talk about it a little bit?
Yep, so restorative justice is a technique of trying to find the harm that was caused and work together with someone mediating the conversation between the people who were harmed, and try to find the solutions and trying to help that harm and reduce that harm.
And who mediates that?
Currently, in all the district, we have a restorative justice. Sorry, here are some results. We currently have a restorative justice district person, and then each school has a coach for restorative justice.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. So for the remainder of the speakers come up, if we could just keep it within 2 minutes, I'd greatly appreciate it. Come on up, everybody.
Brian McDonald, 33 Laurel Street in Somerville. I am a intensive special education teacher. I have been at the Garfield for 17 years. And in terms of safety, I want to bring up the fact that my classroom has not been staffed appropriately yet this year. And to bring that into a better way of understanding it is, my classroom has the most needy children in the system. 35th grade, my students are physically, developmentally, learning, emotionally, any combination, disabled. I have children who have toileting support needs. I have a child in my classroom who's a runner. In order for us to walk down the hall, I have 8 students. I need a hand on at least 6 of the kids just to get down the hall. Okay? I get 2, so that means there needs to be at least 3 of us. And like I said, we have not been staffed appropriately yet this year. Now, before I go any further, no knocks on the administration. My principal, my vice principals have been trying desperately to get people in, to make sure we have people. But there's also a case of, this is education. We don't just need warm bodies. I don't just need someone from down the hall to come in and sit with my kids. I need to teach them. My students also have to do the MCAS alt. So, in order to teach most of my students who are one-on-one learners, I need the right people. They need to be trained. That's my classroom. And my question that I really want people to consider is, if my classroom isn't being staffed appropriately, if the most needy children are not being staffed appropriately, what other classrooms are not being staffed appropriately? If we have classrooms where we have children with special needs that are also going out and integrating, do we have enough people to integrate those children? And if we don't, where are they going? Are they getting the education they deserve? If our classrooms are too big, we're looking for kindergartners, for our kindergarten classes.
Mr. President, with all due respect, I think we're veering a little bit away from the security and safety avenues.
Absolutely. Not a problem.
I would have to disagree respectfully, sir. I think that children running out of a classroom and a teacher having to decide whether they chase that child or stay with a group, that's a safety concern in my book. If you want to move forward, we can do that. No problem. I don't know what the will of the council is. Sir, I apologize. Do you have anything left you'd like to say? Or? For what it's worth, I was just told that you're a miracle worker with those kids.
Thank you very, appreciate it very much.
Hello, my name is Casey. My address is 74 Atlantic Street in Winthrop. I'm speaking to all of you today as a passionate advocate for the well-being and safety of our students and teachers in the Revere Public Schools District. I am a preschool integrated teacher, so I teach the little ones. Integrated being half of my class can be special ed, the other half can be general ed or role model peer students. As we gather here to address the pressing needs of our community, I think it's imperative that we highlight a critical issue that affects the very foundation of our educational environment, which is what my colleague Brian said, the alarming lack of appropriate staffing and support resources. In our schools, the absence of sufficient support staff, including paraprofessionals, poses significant risks. These dedicated individuals are not merely helpers, they are vital to creating a safe, nurturing, and effective learning environment. Their roles extend beyond academic assistance. They provide emotional support, crisis management, and ensure the overall safety of our students. Every day, I am tasked with the responsibility of supporting the safety of my students while making difficult decisions about how to maintain that safety in the face of inadequate resources. The reality we face is stark. Teachers are stretched thin, often managing large classrooms with diverse needs without adequate support. This not only increases our workload, but also places immense pressure on us, detracting from our ability to focus on teaching and fostering a safe space for learning. The absence of extra support staff means that students who require additional attention may not receive the help they desperately need, which can lead to behavioral issues and heightened tensions within the classroom. Moreover, the emotional and psychological well-being of our students is at stake. Many students struggle with anxiety, trauma, and other challenges that require specialized attention. Without sufficient staffing, these students' struggles and calls for help often go unnoticed, putting their safety and well-being in jeopardy. In an environment where emotional support is paramount, we risk creating a system where vulnerable students feel isolated and unheard. The repercussions of insufficient staffing extend beyond the classroom. Increased incidences of disruption and behavioral issues not only affect the students involved, but also create an unsafe environment for all. Teachers and staff are left to navigate these challenges with limited resources, leading to stress and burnout, which further exacerbates the situation. When our schools are safe and supportive, we empower our students to thrive academically, socially, and emotionally. I wanted to take a minute to thank the committee and express my gratitude for creating a safe space for educators to continue this crucial conversation. It is through open dialogue that we can address these pressing concerns and work towards effective solutions. Thank you for your attention to this critical issue.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Backens. I live in Danvers, and I've been an educator at the Paul Revere School for 15 years now. I'm here on behalf of the many educators at Paul Revere who are concerned with the class sizes in our building. I want to preface this concern by letting you know that our administrators in the building are in agreement that the size of our classes are larger than they have ever been. They acknowledge that we need support and are willing to sit down with us to come up with ways that we can better support our students.
Ma'am, I'm so sorry. Class size is not within the safety and security.
So if I have a class
subjects.
size of 31 in my class, and I can't see them when we are exiting a safety drill, and I can't direct them when I'm exiting a safety drill because I am at one end of the line and they are at the other, that doesn't apply
Right,
for
and
safety.
I'll also say that this point has also been made as well. So if you could move forward with anything else that you had to say tonight, I'd appreciate it.
31 is too much in a elementary school class size with one teacher, when the other classrooms in the district do not have anywhere close to that. It is ridiculous that as a city like this, that we have that type of situation. And it's been ongoing with Paul Revere for too long. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jane Chapin. I live at 15 Guild Street, Boston, Mass., and I'm the co-president of the RTA. First, I want to express the RTA's deep appreciation for the ongoing support of the entire Revere community. You have seen firsthand that the students' learning conditions are the teachers' working conditions. Your continued commitment is essential for us to create better schools for all students in the city of Revere. We care deeply about our students. We're also grateful for the city council members who have invited us here today and for those that have stood with us calling for real and lasting solutions, not the temporary Band-Aid fixes, but meaningful long-term change. Since we last addressed the committee, another incident has occurred at the high school. This, like many others, highlights the urgent need for standardized incident reporting system. The Revere Public Schools, this is a key component of our proposals that the RTA has been pushing for. We need a way to track and address these situations so that we can further prevent harm to both staff and students. We also are renewing our call for other essential health and safety proposals, namely special education wraparound services. This includes smaller caseloads for BCBAs, guidance counselors, and social workers. We're also calling for a seat on the safety subcommittee, more paraprofessional support in the classrooms, and the implementation of school safety specialists, which is our most recent proposal that we gave, and we'd be happy to share those proposals with you all. The Revere community demands safe schools, safe and healthy school environments, and it's time to take real meaningful action to address these ongoing crises in our schools. The status quo simply is not good enough. The RTA has outlined clear and common sense solutions that can start to solve some of these big problems. But it isn't just about what we want. It is about our collective responsibility to ensure that our students are committed to advocating for the safe and well-being, that we are committed to advocating for their safety and well-being, and we will continue this fight until the necessary changes are made. We recognize and appreciate the City Council's leadership for understanding the safety of our students and educators extends beyond the purview of the school committee, who have continued to dismiss our safety concerns. Addressing these issues requires a broader community-wide commitment. While the health and safety remains top priorities for RTA educators, while we negotiate a fair contract, they're only part of the larger picture to create a school system that is safe, that attracts and retains high-quality educators, and we need to meet these critical needs as well, because really they are all related to safety. We are advocating for smaller class sizes. We're advocating for dedicated lunch and recess time. Elementary students need breaks. They're essential for their recharge and focus. Very small, 20 minutes. They sit for 120 minutes of reading, 90 minutes of math at 7 years old, and then they go out, they get 20 minutes of lunch, which is barely enough time. Any elementary teacher here will tell you that most students do not finish their lunch. They throw it out, and then they go outside. By the time they get out and come back in, they've been outside for about 15 minutes. It's criminal, frankly. Tonight, we call on the City Council, and finally, we must ensure fair and competitive wages so that we can fully staff our schools. We want to keep talented educators in the city of Revere and maintain the high standards that our community expects and our community deserves. So tonight, we call on the City Council to continue supporting these initiatives. Stand with us as we push for a fair contract that meets the needs of students and educators. Together, we're going to create the safe and healthy schools that our students deserve. And I also want to say a special thank you to the Student Senate for their thoughtful letter that was read here this evening. And I hope that we can continue to work and have an open dialogue and solve these problems together. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Good evening, sir. Name and address for the record, please.
Wayne Rose, Revere Street again. First of all, I have to commend you teachers for the job you do. You all need a hand. As far as what Brian said, I was a school bus driver for special needs children. These children are being brought out into an element that they're really not used to. With all these other children moving around, and they can be hurt. So one thing I would suggest is maybe different times, controlled movements, where you move a certain group, then you'll move another group. And for them to be called liars, these videos I have right here, they are not lying. They are not lying. I have many of these videos. Your police officer in the school being swung at by these children, teachers being pushed around, children being stomped on their heads. This is no lie. So whoever is saying that, it's appalling, and it needs to stop. The safety concerns need to be addressed. I agree with every single teacher.
Mr. President, through you to the gentleman. So here's where I take concern. I don't think any teacher was stabbed, and I don't ever think it was corrected in the newspaper or on the media. And I think that does shed a bad light on all of our students, whether they're A student or a D student, whether they struggle every day to get to school. Hold on, Mr. Rose, please. I let you speak. I'm going to speak now. So please.
No, you actually interrupted my...
Gentlemen, excuse me. Both of you, please have some respect for the chair.
I appreciate it, Mr. President. I respect your chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. I respect your chair, Mr. President.
State your point, Counselor, so he can finish his point.
I stated it. He said no one's lying. They would put out a statement that a teacher was stabbed, and it's come out to be false. So why wasn't that corrected?
Thank you. Okay, everybody, we're not going to entertain people yelling back and forth. That's enough. Sir, please continue your
I
points.
didn't put it out. But these videos don't lie. And I have many of them, where the resource officer was swung at, like I said, people standing on tables, people kicking kids in the hallway. Something needs to be done. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. Name and address for the record.
I wasn't going to speak. Ed Terrell, 70 Sewell Street. And I don't know exactly what to say. First, I would just like to commend our teachers for coming here today and being so brave and talking about sexual harassment, misogyny, verbal abuse. And as far as I know, all these things are not allowed in the student handbook. So I don't know why this is allowed in the first place. In terms of security, I mean, I have been trying to bring some attention to this for a number of years now. I even reported on alleged stabbing at the high school after 20 parents and other people messaged me, and I heard maybe something about that, which I corrected after the police corrected it. And as a result of that, my name was broadcast over the airways, and I was called a liar. My date of birth was run. And then on top of that, it was suggested that I be up on criminal charges. Do you really think that's America? So, as we go forward talking about security, Dr. Kelly has talked about how there are too many doors and too many exits at the high school, and you can't manage them all. Therefore, the high school is not secure, according to her own words. We've all seen the videos of the fights, okay? But it goes even deeper than that. Now, Mr. President, is it true that a member of the school committee told the council to stay in its own lane? Is that accurate? Or something along those lines?
We were told to stay in our lane. I'm not going to state who said it, though.
No, I don't want to give any names. Now, I think that's a little inappropriate, especially considering how the city gives 28% of its budget to the school committee. Maybe you shouldn't get a dime. Anyway, this is a pattern of behavior. I've been targeted. Council McKenna has been threatened by 3 people connected to the school committee. Councilor Zambuto, a school committee member, suggested that he belongs in a casket. And then it gets worse. Councilor Novoselsky begged for understanding after it was found out our superintendent of schools shared an anti-Semitic resource. And all I'm going to say is that if 6 million of my people were killed, the last thing I would be asking for is understanding.
Thank you, Mr. Terrell. We got to stay on topic, please.
I'm just going to say one other thing. How do we expect our children and our students to behave when the adults who manage our schools don't behave? And that's all I want to say.
Thank you very much, sir.
I just can't help myself.
Name and address for the record, sir.
My name is Anthony Cantino, and I live at 240 Suffolk Avenue, Revere, Mass. I just can't help myself listening to all this. I have it, see. They're insulting every parent that lives in the city of Revere with all these things about the schools. Now, I think the schools are excellent. Okay? They may have a incident from time to time, but the teachers and the schools are excellent, okay? The people you should have here today are the police department, who handled the situation, and they were the troublemakers, sort of, were properly treated by the police department, and they were taken to court, prosecuted, and disposed of. We're here for another day. Let's forget yesterday, and let's take care of tomorrow.
Thank you very much. We have two more speakers, and then we're going to move on.
Brian Giesau, 910 Place in Revere, Massachusetts. I am a brother, I am a cousin of many students at RHS, and back when I was there, I remember, I think it was one of the councils over here mentioned that there was Seacoast. That no longer exists. I remember I was going to be put into a spot there. Both my parents were staunchly against it. Now, 5 years later, both my parents are staunchly against my brothers going to RHS because they fear the same way they feared for me back when I was a student. And I just don't understand how the school lets it get to this point where there's so many security concerns, where they're going to allow students to, from what I was told by someone, metal detectors are not a good idea for having a school. As someone else mentioned, it slows down the students' capacity to get to class. My next point, I forgot what I was going to say, but if the schools continue to go downhill, eventually most parents will not be sending their kids into RHS and schools like the vocational, Asabat vocational. I've heard some parents talk about moving to other district areas to put their kids into other schools because they don't want their kids to be in Revere High. I hope that the Revere Teacher Association can create change that parents and future generations are happy to have their kids in RHS like I once was at one point. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Stacy Mulligan. I'm the principal of City Lab Innovation High School. It's nice to meet all of you tonight. I originally just came here as a spectator. Unfortunately, I've been hearing a lot of everything that's been going on through social media, through the newspaper, and it's been very disheartening. Like this gentleman just said, I think the kids in Revere are wonderful. I have an amazing staff who works really hard to educate our students every day. I am disheartened to hear that what we do at City Lab has been unclear. So I guess I should stand up and take a moment to explain what we do at City Lab. When I started in Revere, this is my 5th year now in the city, I knew I was coming to an alternative school. I am an educator of 25 years. I was a teacher in Boston for 17 and an AP in Chelsea and Medford before I came to Revere. I very much knew what type of kid I was getting, and I had no problem with that. When I came to Seacoast, no students attended school. There were no kids there. In fairness, it was COVID the first year, so there were no kids anywhere in the district. But soon after students came back, there were no students there. That was a problem. I know that at one point, Seacoast was full, as you described, City Councilwoman, but when I got there, things had changed. I'm not sure why the change had happened, but if we had 60 kids on the roll, 30 kids were showing up for school every day. You can look at the data. I didn't make the change in City Lab because I just wanted something new. I did it because my students were not thriving. I had a 50% dropout rate. I had a 30% attendance every day, and that's not what school was supposed to be. The change happened because I wanted more for all kids in the city. I really am sad to believe that you think that I would brain drain RHS and take the best of the best. Like I said, I came here to educate all kids, and I have kept that the idea that I will educate any student at risk, L, regular ed, high achieving, AP, whatever. I wanted a learning environment for kids that the high school was just too big, just like you said. At no time, even if I were still Seacoast, we would be able to handle the RHS situation. They have 2,200 kids. At maximum capacity, City Lab can only hold 120 kids, period. So if there were 120 kids that needed to have a different placement, I could not fit everybody in the school. You also pointed to the interview process. I think the interview process is really important. For many years, 25 years, kids had no choice where they went to school. Like this gentleman that spoke before me, he was being shipped over there without a choice. The district's goals are student choice. That is in our school improvement plan. I wanted to create a school where students had a choice. That is why we have the interview process. Any student that attends there, it is their choice, and they make the choice to attend there.
Ma'am, I'm so sorry. I know
No,
I
that's
know that
okay.
you know you're off topic as well. I wanted to give you a moment
I
to
just wanted to let you
respond.
guys know what we were doing.
Thank you for
We are in a
explaining.
space for everybody.
Can I
and-
just say thank you, because I had, I heard this from teachers, and
Yes.
I really don't have a clue. And like
We
I
are
said,
alternative ed too.
I haven't been teaching for 10 years, so I was just listening to what.
And that's why I'm here.
Thank
So
you.
I
Thank you for
appreciate-
explaining. It makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
I appreciate you bringing it up, and if any of you would like to visit, please come, because there are a lot of great things happening district-wide, and I feel like we're doing right by the kids in Revere. I know that people on the school committee have been to school many times, and I'm giving a space for kids that weren't on the graduation path, that had lots of different things going on, that now are fully enrolled in college, and they see themselves with career or college. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. All right, I meant two people ago, now we got two more. That's it. Name and address.
John Stamatopoulos, 15 Sewell Street. I just figured you hear from some parents for a change instead of everybody else. So over the past several weeks, I've had the opportunity to meet with the principals, with the school committee, with the big brothers, big sisters, with the SROs, with probably 100 students, the student senate. And I think everybody wants the same thing, right? We need to do a better job. I don't like the way that it's been publicized, the safety, whether there's misinformation, if the kids are being politicized, but I do know my kids go through RPS. I see excellence coming out of that school from the students, from the teachers, and I hate that we're at the point where we have the lens that we have on our city. So I do think for the teachers, we do need to hear their voice. I think for the students, when you do talk to them, and I want to encourage every parent in this city, when you do talk to them, they feel safe. Many of the kids, I shouldn't say, I'll contradict myself. My kids feel safe because I know Officer Singer and Officer Nicole and Officer Burness, they will die for those kids. And they know that they have the best there protecting them. So they feel safe. And the other part is they don't know the kids that are even involved in half those fights because they don't go to class, right? So the kids that want to do well at Revere High are doing exceptional. My fear is if we don't hear the teachers, we start to lose them. And so many of them have touched my kids' lives and the lives of many others. I believe as a community, we have bashed the kids saying they're animals. Here's the reality. We have a communal responsibility to uplift those kids, and we're failing them. Most of these kids don't have parents to give a damn, defend them for themselves. So we've all got to do our part to actually, it takes a village, we've got to do our part to support our teachers and our kids. In regards to safety, yeah, we need to do better. I was a BPS kid, went through metal detectors every day, but I see that line 150 deep, can't even get into school now with lax security. Well, I don't want to call it that, but with cries for increased security. We can't even get in the building now. At that point, we might as well go remote again. So thank you for your time. Thanks for hearing me out. Thanks for supporting our teachers and our students.
Thank you, sir.
Super quick. As probably one of Don
Name and
Martelli,
address.
39 Dale Street, of one of maybe two former journalists in the room, raise your hand. I know a good PR campaign when you see one, so commend the RTA for running a good PR campaign. enough of the rhetoric generally. All the right people are at the table, right? Whether it be metal detectors, getting ahead of the issues when the kids are really little. I think the right conversation's happening. Let's over-communicate. Let's continue the dialogue. Let's proactively discuss the measures that will be either put in place or to be put in place, and continue to measure and to look at how we can adjust them as we move forward. It's not an easy solution, any of this stuff whatsoever. I'm on the back nine. My youngest graduates in May, and so I'll be out in 2025, but not going anywhere. But I do applaud the city council, the administration, the teachers, the parents, and I echo everything my buddy John just said, because I've had a wonderful experience throughout, from the time the kids walked into kindergarten to the time my youngest, God forbid, goes across the stage in May of 2025. So thank you. Keep up the good work. Let's get the work done.
Thank you, sir. And before, I just want to say, I agree. I don't like the lens that's on the city right now, but on the other side of the coin, I feel like nothing, and I think it was said earlier tonight, I don't think anything would have happened, none of these positive changes would have even been discussed had that lens not appeared and we started looking at our city like that. So I am glad to be a part of the collaborative effort to make our schools safer and more secure. And I'm thankful the school committee's here, thankful that parents are here, especially the teachers and the students. Thank you all. This has been amazing conversation. I also, just before we end this, want to let everyone know tomorrow night there is a Revere High School Community Forum in the RHS Learning Commons between 5:30 and 7 p.m. This is wonderful. Let's keep this rolling. Let's keep the talks happening. And teachers, if you have more to say, give me a call. We'll talk about it.
Mr. President.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Yaramillo.
Thank you. No, I just very briefly want to echo a lot of what's been said. I think that as a youth organizer by trade, I guess you could say, it's so important that we continue to empower folks like the Student Senate, and so important that I understand the frustration, and I don't think anybody can deny the facts of what's happening in our schools. And we are talking about young people, and the way that we talk about young people, particularly young people in a community like ours, where the majority of the school population is historically disenfranchised. It's so important that we're intentional in the words that we choose and the way that we share our own pain and our own struggle. This is not about shutting out or shutting down anybody's experience as an educator or a school staff, but rather that we can continue to create the same harm if we are not intentional in the way that we speak. With that said, hands down, our educators need the support. I think we've heard a great amount of things that need to be addressed, and they have a litany of things that they're fighting for in their contract, for which I stand. And then one last thing, and I don't know if Ms. Atkins is still here. I know that she was still in the middle of her thing, so happy to offer up whatever is left of my 2 minutes per the rules for her to finish her saying. If not, that's okay. And we can time it. It's probably a minute now, but.
Well, like I said, we've already made the point that about classroom sizes and things like that. I was trying to move the meeting forward, ma'am.
I understand. However, when you're talking about safety, safety starts when they're little. You want to talk strategies and calm down and teaching them how to handle their emotions. When you have a class of 31, it is very difficult to do that, right? It starts when they're little. When they're little, you teach them these strategies that they can use when they get to middle school, when they get to high school. That is where it happens. You start it, you get them before it happens. I understand you don't want to hear from me. That's fine.
Ma'am, I'm letting you speak.
Can I just say, can I
absolutely.
add something? What's her first name? What is it? Jen. I taught up the high school for 33 years. I had 44 kids in my calligraphy class. And I understand that it can be tough. But it was a different time then. So I handled it. You know what I'm saying? But I know it's a different time. 31 is a lot of kids.
Ma'am, if you'd like to finish what you wanted to say, nobody asked you to leave the microphone. So if you don't want to continue speaking, I can't have back and forth from the audience. I want to, Counselor Guarino would like to say something, but I've closed that side. We've let everybody speak.
I understand the frustration because I was a teacher as well in Dorchester, and I had a large classroom size. It does fall into security because you can't control a larger classroom if you're one teacher in that classroom. I do understand and I feel for you. On another note, what I wanted to do is thank School Committee member John Kingston for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, and unless there's any opposition, Counselor Hess?
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to point something out that Ms. Irving touched on, and I think it's very important when she asked, are there great things happening at Revere High? Are there great kids that go to school at Revere High? Because the last few weeks, it seems like the light that was shed on us, a lot of people, you know, they ran with it on Facebook, and some of the comments weren't so great. And but I was happy to hear you say that. I have 2 kids that go to the Lincoln School. My son woke up the day before the first day of school in the middle of the night and said, "Why isn't it morning yet?" My kids love to go to school. My sister's an elementary principal. My mother-in-law was a longtime teacher. I actually worked at the schools as a custodian for 14 years. I've seen a lot behind the scenes at the school. I know a lot of the work that you guys, that goes into it, and, you know, how you touch people's lives and your students' lives, and how that carries on for, you know, as long as the kids are in Revere, whether they're 25 years old and you see them at Stop and Shop, but I know what great work you guys do, and I'm looking forward to working with the school committee, the teachers, and the police to just get this thing figured out and move on and do what we do best, and that's touch the Revere kids, you know, and see what they can do. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to place this on file.
Calendar item number 22, motion presented by Council President Cogliandro, that the mayor direct the DPW to ensure work trucks are not parked on city streets when there is no work taking place. There have been issues in the last 2 weeks with trucks being left in parking spots in front of homes with no work taking place. These vehicles are taking up parking spots in the neighborhood that the residents rely on.
Motion speaks for itself. All in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 23, motion presented by Councilor Kelly, that the City Council approve the following special legislation, an act relative to notice requirements for public hearings and parties of interest defined for certain special permits. Section 1, notwithstanding the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 11, parties in interest for residential projects consisting of 6 units or more and all commercial projects requiring special permits shall mean the petitioner, abutters, owners of land directly opposite on any public or private street or way, and abutters to the abutters within 600 feet of the property line of the petitioner as they appear on the most recent applicable tax list, notwithstanding that the land of any such owner is located in any other city or town, the planning board of the city or town, and the planning board of every abutting city or town. Section 2, notwithstanding the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 11, notice shall be sent by certified mail, return receipt requested, postage paid by the applicant for residential projects consisting of 6 units or more, and all commercial projects requiring special permits. Section 3, this act shall take effect upon its passage.
Councilor Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just an attempt to bring more public awareness by amending the applicable Massachusetts general law through a home rule petition. Specifically, it would enlarge the 300-foot abutter notification required under the special permit process to 600 feet, and also required the certified mail notification. But these changes would specifically only apply to those projects consisting of residential structures with 6 units or more, and any commercial projects. And I'd like to point out that Boston has also proposed something similar to this. I think this is something that we should have done a long time ago. And again, it's just an attempt to bring more public awareness where we have so much development happening in the city, and we have these odd commercial zones that are abutting residential neighborhoods, and a lot of the residents are not made aware of these projects. So I would like to have this discussed further in Legislative Affairs Subcommittee, I believe. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors? This will be referred to Legislative Affairs.
Calendar item number 24, motion presented by Councilors Hass and Silvestri, that the mayor be requested to notify the city council whenever there is a change in leadership within a department, whether by termination, resignation, or leave of absence. Further, that the city council be provided with the contact information for the individual who is taking over the duties for that respective department for any issues that may arise.
Counselor Hass.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just to help us counselors do our job and help constituents and residents. I know a lot of counselors utilize 311. Some counselors like to go right to the source and contact the department head. You know, there's various ways that we go and contact people, but it's imperative that we know who to contact, and if the person that we think is no longer there, and who we should contact to help our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Silvestri.
Mr. President, I think the motion speaks for itself. I support the motion wholeheartedly and appreciate it. Thank you.
On the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered. Oh, I'm sorry, Claire.
I'm sorry.
That's
Good
okay.
evening, members of the council. Claudia Correa, Chief of Staff, 281 Broadway. Absolutely, we definitely will increase the channels of communication to make sure that you know who is in charge in each department. Terminations is something that we don't celebrate, so obviously we don't just throw this out there. A couple of things to keep in mind. When we talk about leadership, we're talking about chiefs and department heads. Be mindful that department heads, they're under the union, especially Unit A, and sometimes when there is a termination procedure, it may trigger a grievance. Therefore, we need to be cautious as to why we put out there, but definitely we'll make sure that the communication is there on a timely manner. And so you have a point person with each department. And also we want to reassure you that every time there is a termination, the department is staffed and we are able to continue to provide services as needed. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next motion, Madam Clerk.
Calendar item number 25, motion presented by Councilors Hass and Cogliandro, that the mayor request the DPW to investigate the feasibility of installing protective fencing along the two grassy areas on Tuckerman Street outside of the Lincoln School in the interest of public safety. Last year, there was a motor vehicle accident at this location, and this is where students gather before and after school.
Counselor Hass.
Thank you, Mr. President. So every day I take my two kids to the Lincoln School. Sometimes I'll take my son, and sometimes my wife will take my daughter, but always before school, the kids crowd on the grass to the left and the grass to the right of the main doors of the Lincoln School. And, you know, usually they're running back and forth, almost playing like Red Rover tag, you know, and they're laughing. And about a year ago, I think around 10 a.m., a man lost control of his vehicle, ran up on the sidewalk onto the lawn and struck a tree and knocked a tree down. And my main concern was, oh, wow, that could have been 10 to 15 kindergarten kids or first graders or even a whole family of teachers or anyone. But I think it's something we should definitely look at, even if it's fencing that's like along the Whalen School on Sargent Street, just the heavy wood all the way down. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. I echo everything Counselor Hass said. Are there any other counselors wishing to speak? On the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 26, motion presented by Councilors Hass and Cogliandro, that the mayor and a planning committee examine ways to revive the parade on Columbus Day weekend, which would restore an event that once served as a staple in our city.
Before we begin conversation, I'd just like to add Counselor Kelly and Counselor Guarino-Sawaya as motion makers and invite anybody else to join if they would like. Okay, and Counselor Argenzio, Counselor McKenna. All right. Counselor Hess.
Thank you, Mr. President. So anyone from Revere knows how important the the parade on Columbus Day weekend was for families. It was a staple in the city for years and years. I think the last one we had as a city was in 2019. I believe so, because I took my son. And, that was the first time I had gone in a few years, and just seeing the kids and the young families come out and watch the parade go by and, and just see all their friends. And it was just a great event for the community, to bring the community together. And I've seen East Boston, they do a couple Columbus Day events. One's a cultural celebration. And, we can add whatever we'd like to the Columbus Day Parade. Any groups that would like to go into it, we can have youth sporting events. We can have the high school marching band, JROTC. We can add we can offer it to anyone that wants to be involved in it, and we can make it a great thing for our city that we have every year or every 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McKenna?
Thank you, Mr. President. So I think in 2018, Linda DeMayo, the secretary for Mayor Keefe, had a fundraiser. We need money to operate this. And she had a fundraiser, and it was very successful, and that's how we got to the 2019 fundraiser. But with COVID and everything, no one's picked it up. But I think the first thing we have to do is create a committee and then do a fundraiser so we can create this again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Guarino-Sawaya?
I'll be willing to do whatever we have to do to bring it back. I'm very excited about bringing it back. A lot of residents have asked me what happened to the parade and why we actually got rid of it. It was such a great family event, and they're few and far in between. So we really need to concentrate on figuring out where to come up with the money to bring it back. Thank you.
Mr. President, I don't really think we got rid of it. I think with COVID and everything, we never really picked it up again. So that's.
Mr. President, sorry.
Last one.
Did it go 1 year Revere and 1 year East Boston? Didn't it switch back and forth?
For a long time, it went every 2 years. I know that because I've marched in it every year since I was 3 years old. And then it went from 1 year at a time to 2 years because of cost. So I would love to bring it back too.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know where I heard this information, but our clerk was a red Teletubby in the Columbus Day Parade 1 year. You can't, yeah, I don't know. People they shouldn't just yell information like that. On the motion, all in favor, all opposed. Thank you very much, everybody who came here tonight to speak. And there is no further business. I hope everyone has a great night. Meeting is adjourned.